When you have someone that constantly lives in their ego and their ego is so fragile, unfortunately, even though they feel like you are beneath them, you can't do the same things that they do because it will set them off and it can actually put your life in danger. Hi, my name is Dr. Natalie Jones. I'm a licensed therapist. I've been counseling men and women who have been perpetrators and victims of abuse for many years now. And one of the things that I wanted to talk about was how, there's a lot of people, especially young people, that watch my content. And I know on social media, there's this huge movement, right? Especially when it talks about heteronormative dating or heterosexual dating, right? Where, if a man does this, then a woman should do this, and a woman should do this, a man does this, and blah, blah, blah. Take things that you hear on social media with a grain of salt. I've been doing this for many years. I've worked in corrections for several years. Before that, I worked with offenders for a long time. So I've met with a lot of people who've done a lot of bad things. And let me tell you, the one thing that I have learned about, working with people who have a criminal history and people who have toxic relationships. So a lot of times people who have a criminal history, not all the time, but a lot of those folks that are caught up in the criminal justice system have problems with ego, which means that they feel like they may be better than other people. They don't have to follow the rules. They don't respect authority, and all of this other kind of stuff. So you may have a lot of folks that come out of there with, antisocial personality, a narcissistic personality, various forms of psychopathy, borderline personality, and so on and so forth. How these people show up in real relationships. A lot of times, if you're involved with a person that lives a fast life, a lot of times these people tend to step out on the relationships. They may be cheating. They may be engaging in risky sex. So where they're, buying sex from a lady of the night or transgender of the night. They may be doing that. They may be sleeping with men. They're going to be doing all these things, right? Everything except for committing to you, right? And doing what they need to be doing in the relationship with you. And people don't even have to be diagnosed, and they could still be cheating and doing all these other, running around, putting somebody up in an apartment and, just having all these different lives and things like that. And, it's your right to decide that you want to end a relationship and move on. And I can understand why a lot of people who are in this situation with a philanderer or a cheater, or someone who's emotionally unavailable or an abuser or cruel or whatever, right, would want to leave a relationship like that. But here's the gamut. A person, when you want to leave, that person, that ego kicks in because, again, they look at it like a favorite toy. You are my toy, and I'm not ready to let go of you yet. Even if I'm not playing with you anymore, I don't want anybody else to have you, right? And so this is where you have to be careful. And this is where I've known a lot of people to get caught up in situations where this man is, and a lot of times I'll say man, but you can interchange the parts, right? If you're a woman, if you're a man, whatever. I've met with a lot of men who've been, wandering around, slinging their penis all around town with everybody and not worrying a lick about being faithful. And then you decide, hey, I don't want to be in this relationship with you anymore. I don't like being with a cheater. And now I'm going to divorce you, or I'm going to move on. I'm going to go be with somebody else. That's all you're right. But nothing causes a narcissistic injury faster than that. And they lose their mind, and their ego is fragile. And all of a sudden, they become enraged over being rejected, over being abandoned, and then they want to retaliate against you for wanting to leave, for wanting to better your life, for wanting to go be with somebody else. And it actually becomes dangerous for you because Now all of a sudden they want, they have all this attention for you. They're stalking you. They're following you. They're stalking the person that you may be interested in. This person that's ignored you for years, or didn't sleep with you for years, or was laying up in bed with somebody else for years, is because their ego is so fragile and they cannot take it. They want you to be obsessed with them and chasing after them for all the rest of your days. They don't care how your life is affected that they're not there. They just want you to be there chilling on ice until they're ready to pick you back up. And that's kind of how they look at it. But these people are very dangerous. They're very self-centered. And they're unwilling to look at themselves and say, you know what, I was a bad husband or I was a bad wife. They're unwilling to do that. Oh no, they're never going to be introspective. How dare you? And if you were to, get into an argument and ask them to be introspective, if they're being manipulative and calculating, they may say something. They may tell you what you want to hear. Be like, yeah, baby, I was, that kind of stuff. But they don't really mean that. But most of the time, they're not admitting it. It's everybody else's fault but theirs that you're sleeping with every Tom, Dick, and JoJo, right? And so I think that's the thing that you want to remember, and that's why you got to be careful. The first 2 years after you leave someone is the most dangerous. And this stuff I find to be true, and I've seen people get caught up on their jobs. I've seen a lot of stuff, and I've worked with a lot of people who've done some things too. So just be careful with that. Be careful with what I know there's these coaches out there telling you guys to go get money and leave them and jump on, but a lot of times if a man is investing money in you, he's going to feel possessive of the things that he's investing money in. He's not going to have a healthy attachment and say, you know what, I've invested money in this woman, but now she wants to walk away and do her thing and skip down the road, and I fully support her in doing that. Very seldom are you going to get that, right? So you have to be careful and know, you just have to know what you're doing and what you're getting yourself into, because just because someone might do something good for you doesn't mean that they're good for you, if that makes sense. But that ego causing that narcissistic injury, and not to say that you caused it, because again, you have every right to sort of move around. But unfortunately, everybody's not Dr. Jones. Everybody's not going to agree with that. And some people take that to an extreme, and that can cost you your life. So just something to think about. I don't want to try to scare anyone. I just want people to be aware and be discerning with the content you consume, particularly, again, because I said I have a lot of young people that watch me, 18 to 25, between that gap, which I'm very honored. But, I want to give it to you straight here. You just have to be careful. And, these men out here now, the other thing to keep in mind about these fragile egos, I think you have to look at where things are systemically. You have fragile egos from the top down. You have people that are making laws and things like that. So, while there may be law enforcement, while there may be, these people out there, judges and things like that, don't count on that kind of stuff. Don't count on those types of people all the time. Don't count on things working in your favor. Don't count on being heard, and don't count on people being able to respond to your crisis before your boogeyman gets there, because sometimes that doesn't always work out. Thanks so much for watching. Like, comment, and share. I'm happy to hear you guys' comments and questions.